Everyone, welcome. It is Friday night, April 1st. We're here for Run Pure Sports Final Four show, and we got the Blue Bloods have come out to play for us. We have an awesome show here. We're doing it a day early to give people some extra time to digest this. Got an all-star crew with me here. We'll start off with you, Tony. I'm sure you were on earlier shows today. How did you enjoy the games last week? And welcome back, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a college show for every slate so far, so we want to put out for sure a Final Four one. Then we'll do a Showdown one too on Monday. I'm sure there'll be decent contests for that, if not big contests for that. But yeah, it's been fun. I always enjoy March Madness as much as anybody. I don't follow college as much as these guys during the season, but I do love it for the tournament. And it's been fun. I mean, we've had pretty good games, good teams, the Blue Bloods in the Final Four, like you said. And I'm looking forward to a couple of good games tomorrow, I think. I don't really see either game blowing out. So I think we see two good ones tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so. I was bummed I couldn't make a couple of shows last weekend, but I'm back here.
Gavin was making fun of you, though. I like that. Gavin was getting the job done. He was calling you out. That's what we needed.
We'll bring him in then. Yeah, we'll bring him in, Gavin. Feed me the crow.
Well, you guys, you finally let me on after I shipped 20K last week, so it's good to be back. I'm not gonna lie, I sent Steve a text saying I was starting to get kind of burnt out from the daily grind, and now the spirits are kind of back up, and even with kind of the chaos of the tournament, it's kind of funny that we still end up with four of the most blue blood historic programs, and we got four blue blood panelists right here, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Gavin took down, I think, pretty much everything on the slate Saturday night. So just an awesome team. And our final guest here, Alex Harden, Turtle from RG.
You gave him his actual name there. I like that, calling him by his name.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. It's been a fun season. It's been a great tournament. Like Gavin said, it's interesting. You get all these storylines in the tournament. You get your St. Peter's getting the Sweet 16, and then you end up in a Final Four with a bunch of blue bloods. So that's pretty much ideal for everyone, I think. So it's been a great tournament. It's been nice to actually have some solid college basketball GPPs every slate. Been like 20K up top every slate. So that's been awesome. Been a lot of fun. Long season, but it's definitely worth it for a fun March. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. One reminder, please like and subscribe the video. The subscribe button's the big red button in the bottom right corner. Helps us out and helps you to access all of the other live shows that we have on the Run Pure Sports channel. Let's take this game by game as we always do. I think we can take a little more time on just kind of game thoughts more than just diving into to the DFS plays. I'll start with you, Gavin, with the first game, Nova, Kansas. Really interesting matchup in a lot of ways here. Tempo, injuries, rotations. What are your initial, I guess, overall game thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, we know Villanova coming into the game without Justin Moore is going to be really difficult. That's their best post down guard, kind of their second in command. I think it incentivizes an already extremely slow team to even slow it down more. I would be completely shocked if this game got to 60 possessions. I think it's going to be a lot of actually Gillespie and Moore had relatively even pick and roll frequencies on the team. And now I think Gillespie swallows up damn near all of that. Caleb Daniels is not really a pick and roll guy. You don't want the ball in Brandon Slater's hands by the grace of God. So I think this is kind of, calling Gillespie's show right here. That being said, I still have worry that he's not fully healthy, to be completely honest. That knee roll up that he had, what was it, 2 games ago?
Yeah.
He says he's good, and the dude's an absolute warrior. And as trusty as a point guard gets, this late in March, or shit, we're on to April now, but it's going to be really interesting, really difficult matchup for Kansas. Bill Self has struggled with Jay Wright in the couple matchups that they have had in the past. So it'll be interesting to see, Villanova shorthanded without the versatility of that 2 squad set, 2 different lineups that they are running. What does the team look like?
Yeah. I mean, you hit on my biggest point here. Nova's 97th percentile in pick and roll offense. I think that kind of ties in to DFS well, just with like who Kansas is going to be able to have out on the floor for big minutes. And then the tempo. Nova's last few games, 57, 62, 61, 59, 62, and 58 possessions. Just as a comparison, the national average is over 67. And then Kansas last few 71, 67, 75, 70, 69, and 72. So, a pretty big dichotomy of how these teams want to play. I think if this game is played in half court, Nova's got a real good chance to win. They've been kind of exposed in transition defensively throughout the season. So if Kansas can get out and run and push tempo, I think that really helps them. What are your overall thoughts on the game here, Turtle?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you all so far. It's just going to be a really, really slow game. Like Villanova is literally going to walk the ball up every single possession. And they're really shorthanded without Moore. They're probably going to want to play as much as their starting five here as possible. So they might play 5.5 guys. I don't really see them forcing much bench run here if they stay out of foul trouble. So that just further incentivizes them to play slower, be more deliberate on offense, try to avoid fouls in transition on the defensive side. So, I mean, they're going to try to – I'd be surprised if this game got away from Villanova. So I think it's going to be relatively low scoring, close, regardless of how the shots fall. And it will be kind of interesting to see how self-play this is, especially with the Remy Martin thing, being a spark plug off the bench. I don't know how much he's ultimately going to play in this type of game, especially if the Kansas is winning. I think Jay Wright will go after Remy on the defensive side, so he could turn into a liability there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I like this to be really close, though, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think overall about the game, Big T?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the slate with Villanova Houston on it. I'm pretty sure that was a 2-game or 2 where we had a really good game after it. I just don't see any way. I mean, what you guys are saying was kind of my thoughts anyways. Jay Wright is the master of tournament strategy. He knows he only has 5 dudes. I mean, just looking at Archie's brother, he looks awful, like you guys said before the show. He looks like he's going to be their 5.5, the half man on top of the 5 from what I see. They might have some surprise guy off the bench too, out of nowhere that has a good game. You guys would know better than me, but I mean, if one of these bigs gets in foul, not that they'd even play bigs, but one of these forwards gets in foul trouble, who's coming in?
Yeah, I think the only guys they might use off the bench would be Archie Diacono and Brian Antoine, who was actually a huge recruit coming in to the season. And, if they get down and need shooting, I could see them using him. But I mean, that's more of a pretty deep play. I do think I agree with Turtle that unless someone gets into deep foul trouble, he's going to play these 5 guys, 36, 38 plus.
He will play all 5 guys unless absolutely forced otherwise.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And they're so well coached that I don't see them getting in foul trouble unless the refs do what they do and just give tic-tac after tic-tac call, which they could happen. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys, and it's going to play slow. Looking at these Kansas prices too, I mean, you're not going to want to play them. I mean, I like the take from Turtle too about Remy because he had a bunch of shots. I mean, I've played him the last 4 or 5 slates, and he's looked good. Don't get me wrong, but he has made a lot of tough shots too. If they start picking on him, which Jay Wright's the master in the tournament, he always has a good game plan. He's going to know to go after Remy, like you guys were talking about. And I mean, I'm on the same page with you guys. I think Villanova might win this game, though. I know their dude's out, but they're so well balanced that they can afford to lose someone more than about any other team because they're just going to be well coached. They're going to walk it up. They're going to get a good shot every trip, and they're going to lock you down on defense. It's what they do. It's why they're a good tournament team. And I think they're going to hang around and maybe win this game outright.
Yeah, so they had one game during the season that Justin Moore didn't play. They beat UConn by 20, I think. And yeah, I mean, that's a good point on Remy. The one thing that Wright does a ton is he'll put Gillespie in the post and he'll back down smaller defenders. Remy's definitely the shortest player on Kansas, because their combo guard and wing, Brown and Agbaji are 6'5", 6'6". So I think that's an interesting matchup thing to think about, which is kind of what you have to do in these small slates. We'll start with you, Gavin, on the DFS side. Since we were just talking about Kansas, we kind of mentioned that you're not getting a price break on nearly anyone here. Why don't you just go through your favorite options and some kind of just overall thoughts on the team?
Well, it's interesting for KU. They played 10 games on the year against teams outside the top 250 in tempo, and were 2-8 against the spread. They didn't quite prove that they were a really adept team in the half court. And I will push back on a little bit of, you can beat Nova in transition, given Nova doesn't allow live ball turnovers. They don't sell out for the offensive glass, and they don't really take bad shots. So I think it's tough to run on them, frankly, which was kind of Houston's only hope, and obviously didn't go well. But Kansas, yeah, it's interesting. It's probably going to be where I'm only getting to him in GPP scenarios, because I think the main question of the entire slate is going to be, on the other side, is how many Villanova guys do you want to play in a game that, again, may play 55, 56 possessions?
Yeah.
So in order for Kansas, I'm probably going Jalen Wilson first. First out of those guys. I just think he's the most trusty and reliable of the group, least likely to get exposed in any sort of matchup scenario and pick and roll. We saw him guard Wardenberg in the Miami game because they're so afraid of McCormick in the pick and roll, and Jay Wright will ball screen the ever-living death out of them if David McCormick's on the floor. So I'm not really a DMC guy in this spot, and I don't think you really get to the top two guards. I'd rather just drop down to Remy and hope for another luck box.
Yeah, that's a good point with DMC. I think that this is the cheapest he's been all year. I think he's going to be overowned in the spot. I just don't like the matchup. Like you said, Wright is just going to ball screen him to death. We saw Mitch Lightfoot be in the winner last weekend. He's back at 3,600, been playing mid-teens minutes. I think
they put that dude on the floor. You guys know more about college than me, but if they put that slow-ass dude on that court, Jay Wright is going to punish that guy.
Yeah, but he's faster than DMC.
He's not faster than you.
I think that he handles the pick and roll a little bit better than McCormick does. But I mean, I'm not talking about playing him on a main team, but like we said last Saturday, it's the slow game. If you wanted to pick a cheap guy from the first game, that's exactly what Gavin did. He played Juwan Roberts off the bench, and that ended up being the nuts.
And it's the same point too, though. Roberts crushed, but you don't say the game totally sucks and Lightfoot gets 12. You could still easily ship with 12 if the game plays super slow.
Yeah. Plus, using him, you just get to a different roster construction than most of the field does.
Did you see some of those ownerships in that Houston Villanova game? There's dudes 50% owned in that game.
I know, it's crazy.
It was crazy.
And we're watching it play to 50 to 45, just licking our chops. So we're holding 7 pieces from the second game. Turtle, let's go to you. I want to hear your thoughts on the Nova guys. We have some guys priced down, and we have a ton of minutes and usage to be soaked up.
Yeah, so the Nova guys are just flat. They're too cheap. They're priced like more is there, and even with more there, they still would have been playable at these price tags. And in terms of the projections I have up, I'm pretty conservative on their minutes. I have Eric Dixon at 29. If he doesn't hit foul trouble, dude's playing low 30s at least. So and he's already at 5.4x in terms of value. So he's Dixon is the best value play on the slate by far. Then you look at somebody like Brandon Slater, who's 4K. He's more likely to play closer to 40 minutes. However, dude literally does nothing. He's fine just running wind sprints and taking 4 shots in 40 minutes. So it's a situation where his ownership is how you should play him. If he's going to be someone that's 50, 60% owned, he's the best fade on the slate because dude can play 40 minutes and get 12 points. Yeah. But if he's somebody that's going to be inefficiently owned because they just look at game logs and he does have minutes upside, he's probably someone I'm more inclined to play. So like right now, I have him at like 40% own around that area.
Right, I think he'll be super high owned.
Like if he's over 50, he's somebody that I probably want to play like half the field on and get different elsewhere. But I mean, Slater, he's a guy who can soak up shots though, because in the start of the year, he was higher usage. He had a lot of games in the mid-20s in terms of usage. So it's not like he doesn't have any upside at all. It's just if he's going to be over-owned, there is a lot of downside with that play. With all that said, I think Samuels is the best play on Nova. He's a core play for me. I think he's in a great spot. He's been awesome this tournament. I like him. I think he can take advantage of the inside. So yeah, it's definitely a thing of how many Villanova are you going to play is one of the decision points on the slate. And then like on the Kansas side, like I've been chasing Dave McCormack like he's my white whale, and I just need to quit at some point. But I don't know. I'll probably have some. But there's two layup rules for Kansas: is just max one of McCormack and Lightfoot, and max one DeJuan Harris and Remy, because those are the two parts that are going to be interchangeable. So make sure you have those rules in if you're running like an MME set.
I would just say simplify it even more than you said and just max one Kansas. Like,
yeah, I mean,
more than one Kansas piece, do you?
I think if you're playing on the cheaper side, you can play two of them, but certainly
that's true. I keep discounting the cheap plays. So
I mean, like I could play like McCormick and Remy or something like that, but I wouldn't play two of Jalen Braun and Agbaji. Like I don't see a scenario where like two of them nuke the slate.
And Agbaji's a guy who gets there by scoring points, and I just don't see them, having a game where they score 75.
There's no way I can play that dude on this slate. Yeah. There's no freaking way.
The reason I brought up guys like Lightfoot and Harris is because I think that they're going to be interesting pivots to Slater at way lower owned, and I think that there are definitely scenarios that they beat Slater's price here.
And if we're talking about Remy possibly not getting a ton of run, that means DeJuan Harris is going to be on the floor more, and he might just run into some points.
And bar none, their best perimeter defender too, and DeJuan Harris.
And that's a good point. Which, especially if Kansas is leading this game, that's where I see Remy not playing as much.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on Samuels. I've been riding him all tournament. I think he's been under owned on like every slate. His rates are up. He had battled that knee injury all season, and they were kind of limiting his minutes. He is unleashed now. This is the player that we thought we were getting coming into the year. I think he's the best player left on the team. Gillespie gets all like the national pub, but I think Samuels is definitely the key for them. Tony, what are your thoughts on Nova here? It seems like a team that we want 2+ pieces from just because of the pricing.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I like doing shows with three sharp people like yourselves, because I think my biggest strength is just being able to listen to what you guys say and kind of go with it. And I remember this. I forgot about Harris. Last week he kept coming in and he was pissing me off because I didn't even know who he was. That's how little I knew about him. He looked good, and everything you guys just said made sense. Like, he's going to be needed to defend a team like Villanova. I like him way more than Lightfoot. 3,800. He played 26 minutes versus Miami. I actually am super high on him. I love that call, but I don't think I'm going to play anyone else from Kansas. I like your – even in all my 150, I'm just going to play Harris. I'm not playing – I mean, you already sold me on the Remy fade. I just don't, and I take stands more than most people for sure. I know a lot of people like to space around, but I feel really good about that Harris play. And then Villanova, definitely not going to play. Maybe I'd play 3 just because of the prices, but that second game we're going to get to is just going to be so good. I think it's going to be a track meet, and I just don't want too many pieces from this game, even though the prices are nice. It's going to play super slow. One more note about Samuels too, his point prop. Not everyone can bet these, but on DK, it's only 14.5. That's a freebie. I gave the freebie with my dude last week with the rebounds. I forget who Obanar. O'Banner. I always say his damn name wrong.
You said if he hit the rebounds prop, you'd say his name right.
Yeah, I tried to say it right. I'm just too big of a donkey. I can't even say it right. But this is a freebie. 14.5 points on DraftKings. There's no damn way Samuels isn't getting us 15 or more. So go ahead and bet that if you can. And yeah, I mean, that's it for me.
I think if he goes under that prop, they might lose this game by,
Oh, they're going to get killed
plus.
if he doesn't. Yeah. They need him to go for 20 plus, yeah, for sure. And I think he will. I think he's going to play really well in this game.
Yeah. Gavin, what are your thoughts on the Nova guys, since we only got your thoughts on the Kansas?
Yeah, I kind of piggyback on what Turtle said about Slater, and that Slater's going to have pretty much one job this game, and it's just to stay in Agbaji's pocket everywhere he goes on the floor. They're not going to care about his offensive production. It'll be through, I think 85% of the shots with Nova come through the other four guys in Gillespie, Caleb Daniels, Jermaine Samuels, and Eric Dixon. And I think all four of those guys are 100% main line eligible. And the more I think about it, man, the more I might, in a cash scenario, in a non-GPP, I'm probably going to be more inclined to play three, if not all four of those guys. The non-Brandon Slater core of those guys. In a GPP setting where you probably need someone to have a little bit more ceiling than what that game environment is going to allow for 3 to 4 pieces, then I'll probably stray towards, maybe 1 or 2. But, you're mentioning points props. The one that stuck out to me was Gillespie over 2.5 threes at plus 115.
Yeah, I love that.
I would have bet that probably if Justin Moore was in. And the fact that he's out, I think that Gillespie is going to be handling the ball so much this game in a pick and roll scenario. And especially like when McCormick's out there, it's going to be a drop coverage type. We're going to see a lot of similarities from Miami to Villanova, not in terms of tempo and style of play, but in terms of personnel, sizing, at most one guy down low, if not all 5 guys on the perimeter, kind of with a 4-guard set. So I think there is some translation, when you talk about the DeJuan Harris. But yeah, I think the Nova guys are all extremely great floor plays, but the question is, GPP, do they give you enough ceiling to ship?
Yep. Any last thoughts here, Turtle, before we go to the other game?
Yeah, now that we're giving out like prop stuff. If you play Prize Picks, Eric Dixon's fantasy score prop is 18.7.
That's all over 8.5 points. I think that's a nut bet. 1 3-pointer, and he goes to the foul line one time via McCormick or Lightfoot.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some Nova Prize Picks props that are exploitable. So
I'm going to sign back up for Prize Picks now. 18 for, I mean,
18.7. Like I had like it's off by like 8 to 10 points, which is
massive. I think like you have him at 29. The first thing I did when I opened yours is I bumped him to 33. Like I think that he probably plays that if he doesn't foul, and if he plays 33, he's definitely scoring over that. So I mean that's a great number there. Any last thoughts?
Props, like people, you got to take advantage of these props. If you're in a state that you can bet these, or I mean, it's just these are just they're layups. Like you're going to win more. Obviously, we're not going to hit every one of them, but man, they're just sharp bet. Even like I'm looking at all these Samuels ones. So the rebounds even is 7.5. He's gone over that like every game I'm looking at, and that's what now they're one dude down.
Yeah,
they're not adjusting like for like they're giving like season long baselines with like no context. Like they're not putting anything into these lines. They're so beatable.
And especially with Samuels, we've talked a lot about player props. Like it's a meaningful role change for him. Like they have been holding him back the whole season. Now he's playing 38 minutes. I mean, he was playing 28 and getting 7 a game. Now he's playing 38. He's going to play the entire game, and they're going to need him. Like I took the Gillespie one that Gavin said. I'm definitely on the Dixon over 8.5 points. I think that's probably the best one on the board. That was at plus money on DK on like Wednesday. That was great. Tony, any last thoughts here before we go to the nightcap here?
I think we're all over it. Yeah, I like where we're at.
All right, so the quote unquote big game here. You want UNC and Duke meeting for the first time in the tournament. It's crazy every time I hear it. In the Final Four, K's last year, UNC lost at home, got killed by Duke at home, and then went and beat them at Cameron. I'm seeing Duke -4, 151 total, so 18 points higher than the other game. Gavin, I'll start with you for just overall game thoughts. I think, I mean, there's so much to talk about in this game.
Yeah, where the hell do you even start? A Duke team that has been pretty fortunate in terms of coming back in second half scenarios when we kind of thought they might have been left for dead in a couple spots where, like, in the last 8 minutes of the Texas Tech game, they missed 0 field goals. I'm pretty sure, like not a one.
Yep.
It should be definitely the most exciting game in terms of pace and tempo. It is kind of interesting to note, though, the one thing that is kind of slowing me down from just playing the one guy from the other game and then loading up this game was the fact that the 3 games in this New Orleans arena, I forget what it's called, last time they played, all 3 went under, and like by over 7 points on average net margin. So a little different sideline, big stadium, a lot of juice flowing, but I think there's a lot less pressure on Duke this time around. I kind of lean to their side with a team that just has a few more guys.
Why don't you think, not to interrupt you, why don't you think there's more pressure on Duke? They got all the pressure.
No, I think that there's
Coach
less
K's last season. You don't think that's pressure?
No, I think that as soon as K announced that it was his last year, then pretty much immediately everyone went to the calendar and said, okay, what's Duke's last game? Holy shit, it's UNC at Cameron. And the buildup happened for months and months and months. And all the players funneled into Cameron Indoor, and it was kind of a super compact and tight atmosphere and environment. And Duke played like they had their fucking assholes tight. I mean, so be it. I think that there's and this is the one that, you know, they were interviewing like Boncaro before the ACC tournament, kind of, hey, who do you want? And he was saying, you know, we want UNC in the tournament. They couldn't beat the mighty Hokies, and neither could Duke for that matter, but they get them in this scenario. And I think the main question that you have to answer when looking at this game is, what does Carolina do with Leaky Black defensively? Do they place him on AJ Griffin, which gave him the success in the second game, where they still shot like whatever it was, 49% from 3 for the game, and they just couldn't miss? And it didn't really expose any of their defensive inadequacies or potential matchup issues versus the first time when they lost and he was guarding Boncaro after Bacot picked up 2 auto fouls in the first 2 possessions, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I think it's bad for UNC to have Leaky guard Griffin. It's just, you don't come this far and then put one of the best defenders in the conference on one of the, you know, and don't guard him on one of the best players in the nation. Like Paolo, I think Big T said on the last show, he's a dude on a mission right now. He looks like finally the true alpha for that team. And it's good to see. I think that's kind of the main question you got to answer for a couple people's roles, you know, in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first note, that they had him on Paulo in the first game, and then they moved him to Griffin on the second game. What they do with him, I think, is big just because he's such a great defender. He pretty much had his way with AJ Griffin last time, and AJ Griffin's pretty cheap on this slate, and I think it's going to be popular. So I think that is a huge decision to make. Like you said, Bacot picked up the 2 quick fouls because they started him on Paulo in that first game. They're definitely not going to do that again. He ended up playing 30 minutes, so it doesn't really look like it had that much impact. But by the time he came back in the game, I think they were down 29-8 at the 10-minute mark. You know, the game was over. Bacot in both games has struggled a bit rebounding. I mean, we've seen him as a different guy in this tournament, so that's another piece. And then my last 2 game notes are the only Duke game in their last 12 that was over 70 possessions was the UNC game at Cameron. They play a little slower than people think. They're just so efficient offensively that it hasn't really mattered in the tournament. And then lastly, I think it'll be interesting to see how the ancillary pieces start out the game for Duke. You know, we've seen if the non-Paulo guys are hitting shots early, watch out. I mean, they can really bury you. If they aren't, Paulo kind of goes into hero ball with the rest of the team kind of standing around watching him do his thing. I think this is a really good live betting game, just kind of with that point. As the week's gone on, I'm leaning more and more towards the North Carolina side. I think that they are just such a complete team with the 5 guys that they have on the court right now. They're playing so well. I'll probably end up betting UNC in this game, as much as that is scary to fade this Duke team right now. What do you think overall about the game, Turtle?
Man, it should be a good one. As the week's gone on, I'm leaning more and more to the Duke side, but it's tough for me to take a firm stance there. In terms of the game, like, they probably should not waste Leaky on Griffin. Griffin strikes me as some guy who can stop himself more so than other teams' defender, and especially like shooting in a dome. Like, I could see him be a guy that shoots 0 for 6, and then like he ends up not playing a ton in the second half. That's not really based on anything, but I think definitely Leaky should start and help on Ncaa. It's something interesting in terms of, like you mentioned, like pace of play. North Carolina has a short average possession length on both offense and defense, so that's something that kind of encourages Duke to play fast. Like, they're not a defense that's really going to slow you down in the half court necessarily. So I think this game could have some up and down pace to it. There's just so many pieces from a DFS perspective. It's definitely tough to sort through. It's something where if you're playing tournaments, obviously you're doing the mix and match thing. Should be a great game. Definitely way better than the first one.
Yeah. What are your overall game thoughts going into this one, Tony? Just a massive game to cap off the Final Four for us.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Stevie here. I like Carolina better. Though my worry, though, is Paulo, man. I said it since the last Carolina game on all these shows. The man is just on a mission, and he's clearly the best dude. This is going to be a bad comparison probably, but it reminds me a little bit of Melo when he was at Q's and just took over the tournament. Melo was better than Paulo is like right now, but similar though, where you could just see that they were just on a mission. And honestly, I just struggle to see him losing in my head. I just feel like when it comes down to it, he's just going to get he just looks bigger than everyone. Even last week, I mean, the dude, I didn't realize he was 6'10". I thought he was like 6'6" or something. The dude is a freaking monster. And that is my worry. And Big Mark's good too. I mean, he was awesome the last couple games. But I do worry a lot about Duke's guards. I mean, Roach was incredible versus Texas Tech, and then he came back to reality in a hurry the second game last weekend. I think these Carolina guards are the difference makers, Love and RJ. And Manic was good too in the last Duke game. I think he went for like 40.
Yep.
So this game is going to be awesome. I'm picking Carolina, but I mean, it's a true 5 pretty good guys or 4 good guys and Leaky good on defense versus the best player in Paulo and Mark's good inside. I think this is a tough matchup for Mark, though, honestly. Like, if they put him on Bake-It, that's a tough matchup for him, and he can't guard Manic outside. So I think it's a tough matchup for Big Mark in this game, which is another reason I lean towards Carolina. But I don't know. One thing, too, to add about Griffin, because I think he's going to get ownership. I mean, look at this. At last game, 7 for 9, 2 for 3 from 3, only 25 fantasy points. The game before, he hit a bunch of shots, too, 3 threes, 37 minutes, only 24 fantasy points. Those are the guys I try to stay away from when they're going to get decent ownership. I just don't, and I don't think he's that good. Like, I don't like Moore and Griffin. Roach is okay, but I just struggle with those guys. I don't think I'll play much of them. That's kind of how I'll narrow that side down. And then the Carolina side is the tough side for me because honestly, I could see all 5 of them ending up on the winner in one way or another. So I really struggle to narrow them down. It's going to be tough to play Bake-It, right? At 8,900. He might end up lower owned than we think because of the price, maybe.
Yep, I think for sure. And people will see that he didn't have his best rebounding games in the 2 Duke games. And that's how he really gets there is, by having the 15, 18 rebound games. Marcus played well against him and, in both games.
It's a tough matchup. I talked about the tough matchup for Mark. I think it's a tough matchup for Beckett too, just because you got Big Mark and you got, Paulo, like I just said, he's 6'10". He's going to contest and it's tough in there. They're going to have to get buckets from the perimeter. So I'm super excited for this game though. And Gavin brought up maybe the best point of the whole thing I always forget when they get to these huge arenas, it's tough to take a lot of overs just because, man, they always come out cold. They can't adjust to the no backdrop. it's just weird for them when they're used to playing in small gyms all year. All of a sudden they're playing in a football stadium, and I assume they're playing in the football stadium, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the gym's just huge, so they struggle to shoot. It happens every single year. So I thought that was a great point he brought up.
Yeah. And they just announced yesterday that it's sold out. I think 72,000 fans will be at both games. Just so awesome.
God, before I die, that's on the bucket list. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
right?
Are you kidding? Take my left nut. I don't need that, but I need some Final Four tickets.
Yeah.
Gavin, we'll go to you for thoughts on the DFS side here. I think there's 11 guys in play probably in this game. I think we've kind of talked about Griffin the way that I'm thinking of him. I think the minutes are a risk. I think the scoring is a risk. I think Keels is an interesting play. What do you think about the Duke
He's
side?
my least favorite dude in the whole slate. Like, I think that dude's awful.
What do you think about the Duke side, Gavin?
Some team in the NBA.
Gavin, he's going to be driving a truck in Lithuania.
I think he's going to end up being a first round pick. Don't even get me
started on Tubelis.
Keels is going to be a first round pick?
Yeah. Someone's going to pick
Holy
shit at the end of the first round. I'm telling you.
I don't see it. He should play linebacker, not basketball.
I know. Yeah.
But all right. So the DFS side, like I think probably the first place that I look in the entire game is Caleb Love with the safety that he provides, given that you really got to exploit Duke on the perimeter. As hard of a matchup as it is for Mark Williams with Bacot guarding him, it is way more difficult for Bacot with Mark Williams guarding him, being that Mark is, I think at this point, kind of cemented himself as one of the elite interior defenders in the entire nation. It's not really a discussion. Now, you had in the playbook, like the last Duke time, one way to get unique was to play a Mark over a Paolo at kind of a similar price. I think it's a little bit tougher in this matchup, given I don't know if he racks up kind of the block count with a more stout, interior offensive post guy in Bacot, but maybe the guards just run it right at him and just hand him blocks. It is interesting. I played both on the last one, so I don't think that's a poor way to go either. There's a lot of different ways you can construct, but you go to like a Jeremy Roach and a Keels. Are one of these guys really going to ship you $20K, Jeremy Roach or Trevor Keels? I don't know if I see it, man.
You have to play some cheap guys, you know?
I know. And like, I would much rather
play. Give me the Villanova guys over these terrible Duke guys.
Yeah, I would rather take the Nova dudes. Like, Wendell Moore is pretty interesting, man.
He hasn't done anything.
The more I think about it, he's come alive a little bit in the tournament, but I don't know, GPP scenario. But I think it starts with Love, Bacot, and
Tony hates that term.
Sorry, Bacot, Love and Boncaro. Sorry, Love and Paolo. Sorry.
I don't even. I wasn't listening.
Like saying that you'll use him in GPPs or something like
that. Oh
yeah. The thing that what worries me about Griffin, if you're gonna fade him, is that dude's got a 7-foot wingspan, like as a 6'6" forward. Like
he is long.
Just sticks his arm out and
the whole team is huge.
Falls into steals somehow. And boy, if I had a nickel for every time I faded some chalk play who got there on 8 blocks
6 steals.
or 6 steals.
6 steals.
Fuck, I'd be on a goddamn yacht watching the Final Four right now this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if Griffin has that kind of upside, but it's not that he's the most willing defender. He is able, but not as willing. So I get it. Pretty tough to fade, though. In all honesty, it's going to be really hard for me to fade him at just over 5K.
Yeah, my thought is more. I know a bunch of people are going to be maxing out the big tournament. You can't just jam all the same plays. You have to find some way in part of your lineups to get a little bit unique. I think the way that I'm playing this game is the forwards from Duke and the guards from Carolina. And I'm kind of including Manic as a guard because he's basically playing like a guard. I think it's the matchup, like you said, Gavin, how it's how you beat Duke is you have to shoot over top of this huge team because you're not going to score against Mark at the rim. And I just love how Caleb and RJ and Manic are playing in this tournament. They've carried the team here. Guards win in March and April. I mean, that's a long-standing saying. I think UNC has the better guards in this game. So I'm going to try to play the UNC guards and the Duke forwards. I love Mark Williams in this game. I think he's been the most valuable player to them in this tournament. He's been dominant. I mean, they're finally giving him the minutes that we thought, Gavin, in our preseason show, we basically said, I had him for first team all ACC. I said, if they give him 30 minutes, he's just going to absolutely dominate. He's finally getting that, and he is dominating. He's averaging 4 blocks a game in this tournament. I mean, so you're starting with 7-point floor, 8-point floor,
10 plus points every game of the tournament, all 4.
Yep, went for 16 and 13 against UNC last time with no blocks. I think he's got like slate shattering upside. I think he'll be lower owned than the other bigs. And I love doing the double Duke forward, playing Paulo with Mark with the UNC guards. I think that's the way I'm going to go. I haven't decided yet. I just think that is the path that's most likely in this game to have upside from all the pieces. What do you think on this game, Turtle? We've been talking without you for a while now.
No, I completely agree. Like Banchero and Love, to me, are the best 2 plays in this on the slate. Like, certainly I'm going to have one of Mark Williams or Paulo in every lineup I make. And I'm even considering like doing something with just like locking Paulo. Like, I don't see how he's not in the optimal lineup here. Like, if he's like 60% owned, like I think he's probably going to be in the optimal lineup more often than that.
Yeah.
Love, you're going to get shots out of him. So that's the nice thing. He's only 6,400. He's definitely underpriced. He's another one that could shoot like 0 of 10, but the difference between him and Griffin is Love's going to keep on shooting. He's going to still play the whole game. So it's a lot different play there. Wendell Moore, it's tough. Like, I feel like he's going to get me like 25 to 30, but I don't know about the upside. In terms of like the bench plays on this game that you might just like throw in tournaments, like if Baycott, I'm trying to think through like if Baycott gets in foul trouble or Apollo, like who's viable there. You think it's a situation where they would play like Puff Johnson at the 4 if Baycott got in foul trouble and like
knock this Puff Johnson shit off? Come on, that's not a real fucking player.
Have you seen Cam Johnson? It's like
they do look identical.
Yeah, maybe he gets like in a best case scenario, what, 10-minute ceiling?
I mean, I'm talking about if like Baycott gets in severe foul trouble, like picks up 2 in the first 2 minutes. Like, how are they going to play it then? Because like UNC's playing like the Villanova rotation, like they have 5 guys.
That's what happened last time. Is Baycott picked up 2 in the first couple minutes. He still ended up playing 30 minutes. Puff played 8. I don't know. I mean, these are things that you have to think about when you're doing the 150s, though. I think similarly on the other side, we've seen Mark Williams foul some. If Theo John plays 16 minutes, I think he could probably get there too. Not a guy that I've played all year.
Listen. I'm not I haven't bet this game pre-flop, but if either big man gets in foul trouble in the first couple minutes of the game, you should be first half live betting the other team pretty quickly, because I think that both of those guys are going to be huge cornerstones to either team's success, whichever way it comes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though, with UNC. Like, if Baycott picks up 2 in the first 2 minutes, Baycott might check back in at, like, the under 8.
Yeah.
Whereas, like...
That's what they did last time, yeah.
Mark might even sit the whole first half or come in the last 2 minutes. Like, both the teams will play some 2-foul first half stuff, but UNC is pretty aggressive there. And at that point, Baycott just becomes, like, a turnstile near the rim.
Right.
So maybe if he gets 2 fouls, like, bet Duke and the over.
Well, I mean, we've UNC and us have already seen what's going to happen to them if they sit Baycott for 12 minutes in the first half.
I mean, the game's over.
If we see foul trouble in either of these 2 games, we are literally going to be seeing laundry managers chucking up shots on a Final Four court. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dontrez Styles back in the game. That's what I'm talking about.
God. All right. I meant to mention earlier, we've got a NBA playoff best ball on Underdog, partnered with Run Pure. If you use the promo code Run Pure for new signups, that'll get you $100 deposit match bonus with your first deposit. And again, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button for us. let's go through each person. Last thoughts on the two games and your favorite two plays of the slate. Favorite expensive guy, and let's say favorite under 6K guy. We'll start with you, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to have a different, like always. I mean, I'm I'm usually a lot different than most people, but I have a strong take on Duke, and I think it's going to be different than you guys. I think Mark Williams is a terrible play. I think Paulo's a lock, like Turtles said. I just can't see Paulo not going for like 40 plus. And I just can't see Mark Williams has been amazing. I agree with you guys. And he's still only got like 33 fantasy points the last couple of games. I just don't see it. I don't like I don't like any of these Duke guys except Paulo. So that's kind of going to be my stand of the slate. I'm going to probably just lock Paulo, fade the rest of Duke almost completely. I might play a tiny bit of Roach just because of how much he has the ball in his hands, but I don't like any other Duke guys. And I love these Carolina guys. But my favorite plays of the slate for sure, in summary, are Paulo, like I just said. Caleb Love would be my favorite Carolina guy. Manic, too, right behind him, but Caleb Love. And then my favorite difference maker, though, you guys gave to me this Harris. I freaking love this Harris at 3,800 to free up some salary. And I think he plays like 30 minutes. As crazy as that sounds, I think he plays a ton because they're going to need his defense, as you guys talked about. So I think he's my leverage play kind of the slate.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And, you get a ton of leverage on Slater, who I think is going to break that 40% own Turtle. Why don't we go to you next? Last thoughts on the slate, and then favorite expensive and guy under 6K.
My favorite expensive guy is Paulo. Like I mentioned before, like he's definitely a lock button candidate. Like I'll have the most of him on Duke. My favorite cheap play is Eric Dixon for Villanova. Just massive. Like he's going to play as much as possible. Like he's just too cheap. Like he's the cheap guy. I'll let other people jam in as much Slater as they can. I'll take my heavy stance on Eric Dixon.
Yep.
Like,
Gavin?
how does Dixon not get there? Like, just being like, take the ownership and everything. Like,
I don't know.
Just fouls. Like that's the only way, right?
I think you can lock Dixon too, Tony.
I don't see how he doesn't get there outside of just like crazy fouls.
Even if he fouls, I think he still plays 30 minutes here. I mean,
if you gave this exact situation and you could price it, wouldn't he be like closer to 7K or close to it?
I think he would be
6K.
like the Samuels price, and Samuels should be 7K.
Like he's just too cheap. Like I don't see a way around, and he's going to be very high owned. So like it's not like we're saying something crazy, but you get edge. We talk about this all the time, right? Like if a dude's 65 but he's a lock, play him 100 and you're still above the field. You still get a little edge.
Yeah, I think everyone who doesn't have him is playing from behind to start the slate. We'll go to you, Gavin. Last thoughts on these two games, and then your favorite stud, favorite guy under 6K.
Yeah, to echo the Palo sentiment, but I think if we're going to go outside of Palo, I think Brady at 7-3 with Palo guarding him. We saw the article where literally coaches are saying Palo doesn't want to guard anybody.
Yeah.
We just saw Brady torch, Duke and Cameron. The guy has become a completely different player since the Dawson Garcia departure, when he's become more of a full role leader, almost kind of leadership type role as one of the older guys on the team. And we've seen it pay dividends. And then I was going to say Dixon as well. I mean, you got the Showdown show. I don't want to give out the stone nuts, but Dixon captain, they might be backing up the Brinks truck to my apartment. That's all I'm saying.
One thing I'll mention that kind of ties it. So my favorite non-Paulo expensive guy is Brady Manick. One thing we didn't mention is Duke has played a ton of this like matchup zone in the tournament, which has really hurt, teams like Texas Tech who can't shoot. If they try that against UNC, that's kind of what makes me like these guards even more, especially Manick. He's played 38 and 39 minutes last two games, 16 to 34 from deep in the tournament. I would be surprised if he doesn't play 38 or more minutes here. I think he's underpriced, and I hope he comes in lower owned than he should be. I'll cheat a bit for my cheap guy, and I'll go to 6-1. I think Jermaine Samuels is my second or third favorite play on the slate. I mean, God, he's been good in the tournament. Gavin and I drafted him in this season-long league and then saw him play 25 minutes a game the entire year. Just so tilting. I think he's going to be the best player on the floor for Nova, and I think he's 1,000 too cheap here, just rebounding his ass off in the tournament. If he doesn't play well, I think Nova is absolutely cooked in this game. But yeah, all right. So right under an hour. I think we've got a PGA Showdown show coming up next. At Run Pure. We will be back probably on Monday, I assume, for the National Championship Showdown. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you're watching this live or if you're catching it on Saturday before the games, enjoy the Final Four. We don't get matchups like this every year in the Final Four. And this is, it's the first year in a couple of years with a full stadium. So really enjoy it. I will be out and about for the games, and good luck on the slate, everyone. Simon, get us out of here.